and welcome to Sweet Home California. My name is Jennifer, and today I'm going to go over some of the propositions that you will find on your California ballot if you are voting in California. Now, some of these may be specific only to Kern County because that's where I am at, and so there may be some other propositions that are on your ballot that I'm not going to cover because they might be specific to your county. But I'm going to go over them in order that I have on here. So anyhow, the first proposition is Proposition 1, which is a constitutional right to reproductive freedom, which would be a legislative constitutional amendment. And I would recommend that you vote no on this because basically this makes abortion a healthcare right in our state. And not only that, but also then to put it on taxpayers to fund these things, and not just for people in California, but also people in other states, even other countries may be able to come into California and have California taxpayers pay for these procedures. So definitely vote no on that if you value life at all. There are no limits on this. There is no only for medical necessity. Past a certain point, there's nothing. It's just flat out, however, all the way up to the point of birth. So please vote no. All right, for Proposition 26, don't ask me what happened to Propositions 2 through 25. Those are probably just smaller propositions that only affect particular counties. But in any case, Proposition 26 in California will allow in-person roulette, dice games, sports wagering on tribal lands, and it's an initiative for a constitutional amendment and statute. Now, why I believe you should vote no on this is because the state has decided that you can gamble in California, but it's a monopoly given only to certain Indian tribes. It's not even all Indian tribes. It's only certain Indian tribes. And I believe that's not fair. If we're going to allow gambling in this state, then it should be open to the free market. Proposition 27 is similar. It allows online and mobile sports wagering outside of tribal lands. And this would also be a constitutional amendment as well as a statute. And why I think you should vote no on this is, again, if gambling is going to be allowed, it should be available for any legal enterprise to conduct, not just based on an immutable characteristic such as whether or not you are a particular tribe that has been granted this right. And again, it's not even all tribes. Proposition 28 provides additional funding for art and music education in public schools. My daughter was in band, and I am a firm believer that music is definitely a good thing for students to learn. It actually helps with, it's been proven to help with math and things like that. For some reason, knowing the notes and everything, it just works on a part of the brain that also influences your math ability. But I don't believe we should be adding more funds to this. In California, I don't know if you realize this, but 50% or more of our state's budget is already going to fund education. I don't think the problem is the amount of money. I think the problem is how it's being spent. And there's probably a lot of things that we shouldn't be spending money on at all. So I think that the schools have more than enough money, and I do believe that arts and music should be funded, but that needs to come out of the existing pot of money that is already allocated to our schools. So I believe you should vote no for providing additional funds for arts and music education. And by the way, I think they were talking about that being an additional impact of about $1 billion annually that's going to come out of our pockets. So that's Proposition 28. For Proposition 29, that is a proposition that is going to require on-site licensed medical professional at kidney dialysis clinics and establish other state requirements. Now, why should you vote no? Well, because I believe it's like they have to have a certain level of doctor on hand. And for most people, when they go in for dialysis, it is a nurse that that just needs to go ahead and hook you up to the machine, and everything works fine. Yes, occasionally things do happen, but it's a rare event, and the added cost that is required for this is going to make it's going to put lives in danger, because it's going to have dialysis centers closing down because you're not going to have enough doctors to be at all of these different dialysis centers. So if you have fewer dialysis centers, you're going to have those that don't have good transportation that may not be able to get dialysis at all. So I believe you should vote no. Once again, the state's trying to mandate the wages and unnecessary regulations on private dialysis centers, and that will restrict access, and it will drive up costs. So please vote no on number 29. And I do have a neighbor whose wife has been on dialysis for years, and he is very adamantly opposed to this. And that's, I mean, why wouldn't you want to have more medical help on hand? Well, this is how he explained it to me. It's going to drive up costs. It's not going to increase benefits, and it's going to price out a lot of people, and that's going to result in more deaths. Proposition 30 talks about funding programs to reduce air pollution and prevent wildfires by increasing the tax on personal income for those who are earning over $2 million. And this is an initiative statute. Why should you vote no? This is another one of those tax the rich schemes, and this is apparently supported by Uber, Lyft, and other rideshare services. Why? Because it's a response against the legislators' new law that rideshare companies must have electric cars in 6 years. And this proposed tax would go specifically to help subsidize electric cars for drivers. So they may not have thought up this initiative to begin with, because I believe they said that they didn't. But even if they didn't initially come up with this idea, they're certainly behind it, because they're going to benefit from it with the subsidies for electric cars. So vote no. Proposition 31 is a referendum on a 2020 law that would prohibit the retail sale of certain flavored tobacco products. I am not a smoker. I thankfully have never been addicted to that. I did try once when I was a kid, and it made me sick, and I just never had the urge to try it ever again. But I do have family members that are addicted to tobacco products. So isn't it a good thing to, limit these kind of things? Well, I mean, if you're going to take it all away, you're just going to probably wind up with a black market on it. But really, even though it might sound good, what in effect this is really going to do is going to ban a lot of the smoking cessation products, because these are like those flavored vape things that help a lot of people go from smoking tobacco to not being addicted at all, because it has less nicotine. And so they wind up ceasing to smoke altogether. So if you get rid of that as an option, then how many people are we going to have that are just going to continue smoking? All right. Now in Kern, there's a Kern High School District 1 that proposes to have another bond. And they're talking as number E, or letter E. Recommend voting no, because again, going back to the amount of money that we spend in education already, why are we going to raise more taxes on that? We just need to be more responsible and more effective with the dollars that we have. There is another Kern County specific initiative to do a 2-term limit measure. Now, the guide that I got from the Republican Party is recommending that we should vote no. This is one where I'm kind of leaning towards that we should vote yes, because we've got these career politicians that never seem to want to. It's just hard to get rid of them, because once you have name recognition, especially in these smaller towns, they just tend to stay on there forever. Inertia, they're there. They haven't done too bad a job, so they just keep being there until they decide to quit. Whereas if you have two new names on there, then hopefully, people will actually take the time to learn the pluses and minuses of either one. I don't know. I'm for term limits. I don't know if 2 terms is the right amount of terms, because it takes some time to learn how to do your job, right? 2 terms doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I'm all for fresh blood in our public discourse. So I would recommend that you vote yes to term limits. Another Kern County one that's going to affect my area in particular is they want to increase our sales tax here by 1%. Now they're saying it's by 1%. That's 1 percentage point. So right now, where I live, it's 7.25%, which is the lowest amount in California. There's a lot of other cities and counties that add on to that base amount, that's 7.25%. But where I'm at, it's just the 7.25%, except that now they want to add that additional 1%. So it's not just 1%. It's not like you're increasing our cost by 1%. No, you're increasing it by 13.5%, because that's the difference between 7.25 and 8.25. It's a 13.5% increase. And supposedly this money is going to go towards services such as paying more money for police and firefighters and mental health, which those all sound like great and wonderful things. And I was military police when I was in the military. I totally back the blue, but again, I think this is a matter of learning to live within your means and spending the money on the right things. And I don't think adding additional money like this, where they're really not restricted to only spending the money on first responders and fire departments and mental health. They really have pretty much a blank check on what they can do with this. So I would urge you to vote no on any sort of tax increases. Instead, encourage them to look at their budgets and to live within their means, which is what all the rest of us have to do. So anyhow, I appreciate your time. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I will do another video talking about some of the candidates, but this one was just about the California propositions that the people in Kern County are going to see on their list, but some of these are statewide propositions, so anybody in California. So share with anyone you know that's in California and let me know your thoughts down below. God bless, and I will talk to you next time.